Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mr. Jackson here, back with another EDH deck tech for you guys. Thank you so much for all the support you guys gave me on my last one. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one as much as you do that one. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Today we're going over Gorion Wise Mentor. He is a newer commander that's come out of Battle for Baldur's Gate. He cares about adventure cards. There's only two sets that have adventure cards, Throne of Eldraine and Battle for Baldur's Gate. Hopefully with the new eldraine set that's set to come out next year, we get even more adventures, even more fun that we can have. There's a lot of different elements to this deck that can be something for everybody. There's token creation, there's big creatures, there's evasion, there's flicker, there's spell slinger, there's control. It's kind of all here. It touches on every aspect of battle cruiser magic. So he's a green, a white, a blue, vigilance, 3/4. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. He comes out pretty early on. He's a lot of fun to mess around with, and with our next card, Lucky Clover, you can actually start tripling up on that effect. It's an artifact, 2 mana. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, instant or sorcery, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. That's going to be huge with a lot of the different adventure spells we have in here. You'll get triple the value that you would get from just flat out casting the adventure spell. This was really popular in Standard when the adventure spells first came out. Good way to get the Lucky Clover is the Tribute Mage. There are other effects you can run like Fabricate to get to your Lucky Clover, Enlighten Tutor, but this is the only one that I'm running in this deck. If you have those cards, feel free to put them in. I just chose to put other things in here and didn't end up putting the Enlighten Tutors in the deck. So next we're going to go over some of our ramp. We have Farseek. It just lets you tutor for Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain. Eureka Moment kind of doubles as card draw and ramp, because you can draw a card, draw 2 cards, and put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Growth Spiral does the same thing, but you're only drawing the 1 card instead of 2. Vol, Candlekeep Researcher. A newer creature that came out of Battle for Baldur's Gate as well. Vigilance, 2/3. You can tap to add an amount of generic equal to Vol's toughness, so 3. If you can bump her up, then that's great. You can get even more value out of it. This mana can only be spent to cast This mana can't be spent to cast spells from your hand. So you can use this mana to pay for commander tax on Gorion. You can use it to pay to get the creatures that you've sent to the adventure zone, as I like to call it, out of the adventure zone, out of exile. It's just a really good piece of ramp for later game when you're trying to get those creatures out of the adventure zone. Thought Vessel, no max hand size. Pair that with Decanter of Endless Water. These both give you no max hand size. This one taps for color, this one taps for generic. There's a lot of card draw elements to this deck, so you'll want to make sure that you don't have a maximum hand size so you're not dumping cards into your graveyard, because everything that I have here I've never really felt good about discarding or milling or anything like that. Felwar Stone just taps to add color your opponents could produce. Arcane Signet gives you green, white, or blue. Now we're going to move into our card draw package. We have Tatiova Benthic Druid. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. There's not a lot of landfall triggers in this deck. This is the only one, but we're wanting to draw a lot of cards with this deck. The major win con in this deck is Approach of the Second Sun. We're wanting to get to that as quickly as possible. Edgewall Innkeeper, whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, draw a card. Beast Whisperer, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Archmage Emeritus, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So with these, we're, when we cast a creature, draw a card. Instant sorcery, draw a card. Even, heck, with this one, Vega the Watcher, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card. So, cast an adventure spell, it goes to the adventure zone, we draw a card off that, and then we cast the creature from that, we're drawing off of Beast Whisperer, or Edgewall Innkeeper, and Vega as well. So we have a pretty solid set of card draw effects that will really help us get through our deck. Now, some of these adventures we're going to want to cast multiple times. So we have a couple of different ways to get them back to our hand after we've cast them as creatures. Cunning Evasion is an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to your hand. So with this, you can start swinging in with some of your big creatures to get them back to your hand and recast them. Same with Grazalix, except for this. If they become blocked, you can return them to your hand, or if they deal combat damage to a creature, to a player, then you draw a card. So your opponent's going to have to decide whether or not they want to let you return your adventure spell back to your hand, or if they're going to let you draw a card off of hitting them and take the damage. Fey Offering. This card's pretty good in this deck. I've had a lot of success with it, and I've really enjoyed having it in the deck. At the beginning of each end step, if you've cast both a creature spell and a non-creature spell this turn, create a clue token, food token, and a treasure. So when you're sending your adventures on an adventure, then you're, doing this and then playing your creatures as well, because we're going to be doing a lot of both. Talrand will just get you a bunch of blockers or attackers, flying blockers or attackers, whenever you cast your adventure spells. Mysterious Pathlighter is just a fairy, 2/2. Each creature you control with an adventure enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. She hasn't been super impactful with the deck, but it has to deal with adventure spells, so when we're casting the creatures, we're going to be swinging with them, hopefully, and it's helpful to get that extra +1 counter. So these next three cards are kind of the big, impactful, what's the word I'm looking for? Strategy. That's not the word I was looking for, but we'll call this the strategy of the deck. We got Seedborn Muse, Teamer Sabertooth, and Leyline of Anticipation. Ideally, with this, you'll be casting your your adventure spells every single turn, not just your own, but your opponent's turns as well, to start hitting some of those card draw engines. Engine was the word I'm looking for. This is the engine of the deck. So we'll just grab Blessed Hippogriff, for example. Send Blessed Hippogriff on an adventure, draw a card. You can flash that in. This has instant speed, but for the sake of this, we'll say it doesn't. And then on the next go around, all your lands on tap, you can cast the Blessed Hippogriff, draw a card, and then bounce it back to your hand with the Teamer Sabertooth. Really, really, really good and impactful. One of those synergies that I think is a lot of fun. I've seen people using it in morph decks. Works really well there. So this is the win con of the deck if it's not combat damage or commander damage. Sometimes I've had to use this as the win con. Approach of the Second Sun. If it's, I think this is a pretty standard card that most people know about, but I'll read it. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library, 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. So it's just a ticking time bomb before you win the game. Your opponents are going to be on edge, they're going to be swinging at you, but hopefully you have enough value to be able to block or swing back for pretty big damage. So we've gone through a lot of the backbone of the deck. We need to start getting into some of the adventures. There's a lot of different types of adventures. There's some that interact, there's some that just get you tokens, but everything in here more or less serves a purpose. So Curious Pair, probably one of the least impactful adventures. As soon as a good one from Eldraine comes out next year, probably going to replace it with this one. It's just sorcery speed, create a food token. So with Gorion, with Lucky Clover out, you can get 3 food tokens. Like I said, not super impactful, but you know, if you want to gain life, then you have some good options for doing that there. Lovestruck Beast. This is one that I've really enjoyed. You create for 1 green, you can send him on an adventure. Create a 1/1 white human creature token. And then his creature ability is he's a 5/5, 2 green. You can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. So there's a lot in here that will create 1/1s. So even if this 1/1 that he generates dies, then you'll hopefully still be able to attack with him. Pretty cool card. I like the I'm drawing a blank on all of the words today, guys. I'm sorry. I like the artwork from the eldraine showcase cards. I like them a lot. I want to pick up all of the eldraine cards in showcase. I've already gotten a good chunk of them, but some of them I still need to do, like Lonesome Unicorn. Just creates a 2/2 white knight with vigilance, and it itself is a unicorn, 3/3 with vigilance. Pretty good value there. Flaxen Intruder. This one's a really cool one. You can send it on an adventure for 5 and 2 green, but you're creating 3 2/2 green bear tokens. So with Gorion, with Lucky Clover, you're going to be creating 9 bears, which is pretty good value. I'm not a huge fan of the mana cost there for that, but you're getting a lot of bears. Okame Ranger. I don't know if that's actually how you say it, so that's how I'll say it in this video. But the Okame Ranger, you can send it on an adventure for 4 green or 4 white or a mix, and you can create 2 white human creature tokens. And when it's a creature, it taps to give creatures you control +1/+1 until end of turn. Pretty impactful as far as getting those tokens out that you can swing with or block with. Horn of Valhalla. This is a newer card from Battle for Baldur's Gate. It's an adventure artifact. You can send it on an adventure for X and 2 white to create X 1/1 white human soldier tokens. Copy that 3 times. Pump 9 mana into this. Copy it 3 times, and you've got 27 soldiers. Pretty cool effect. And then it's a creature. Or it's an artifact that equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So equip that onto Gorion, make him unblockable with one of these other adventures that we have, or Rogue's Passage, and he's swinging in, hopefully, for lethal. Pegasus Guardian. The adventure spell itself does not get you a token or anything, but the creature version of it does. So the adventure, rescue the foul, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So someone's going to Swords to Plowshare your commander or one of your other creatures. You can flicker it in and out to protect it. And then its creature form is whenever at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So you bounce your creatures back to your hand using the Temur Sabertooth or Grazilex. You'll be getting a 1/1 white flying Pegasus, which is a pretty good blocker. Help protect you against dragons and other flying monsters. Rosethorn Acolyte's a really good ramp spell. You can pay 1 green to send it on an adventure to add 1 mana of any color. Triple that with Lucky Clover and Gorion, and you have 3 mana of any color for 1 green. It's also a creature that taps for 1 mana of any color. Beanstalk Giants, another humongous ramp spell. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, untapped, then shuffle your library. So, again, with Lucky Clover, with Gorion, you're getting 3 lands untapped to the battlefield, replacing the casting cost for the adventure spell. And then it itself as a creature is Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. So you get a bunch of lands out, and all of a sudden you've got like a 12/12 on the battlefield. This one has been a fantastic creature for this deck. The Young Blue Dragon, it's a new one from Commander Legends. You can pay 1 and a blue to scry 1, then draw a card. So, I think without saying, Lucky Clover, Gorion, scry 3, draw 3. Fantastic value, and then you can flicker it back to your hand to really get through your deck. So, this next set of adventure spells really are not the most synergistic with what we're trying to do, but if we're going to swing in, which these adventures allow us to, we can start really pumping up Gorion or any of our other creatures to get pretty big damage in. So, Toontail Tree Folk, I like my Tree Folk a lot. I had a Tree Folk tribal deck for a little while. You can send it on an adventure to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. So, send it on an adventure, put 6 +1/+1 counters on Gorion. All of a sudden, you're swinging in with a 9/9. Pretty good. Pretty good. 9/5, 9/10, excuse me. Garen Brigg Carver, it's an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This one's one that's kind of low impact. I like the artwork on it a lot though, so I kind of have it in here for that purpose. If we have a food token out that we're not really planning on using for attacks, a life gain I should say, we can turn it into a creature and put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. So we can turn 2 of our food tokens into swingers, blockers, whatever you need them for, and they can still tap to sacrifice themselves to gain you life. So, pretty good versatility there. Like I said, it's probably one of the least impactful cards in the deck, but when you have it out, you have the ability to turn something into a creature. It's pretty helpful. I also like the artwork on it a lot for the showcase. I think it's pretty cool. Silverflame Squire, just another one of those creatures, adventure spells that will buff up one of your creatures by +2/+2. Gives you the benefit of untapping it, so if someone's tapped down one of your creatures, you can untap it and give it +2/+2. Gorion has Vigilance, remember that, so you're not really going to need to untap him, but sometimes you might need to, so it's pretty good to have that in there. Moonshade Pixie, it's an instant. On the adventure spell, up to 3 target creatures gain flying until end of turn, and then when it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents who were dealt damage this turn, combat damage this turn. So you can give some of your tokens flying, swing in at 3 of your opponents, and then draw 3 cards. So pretty cool card there. Sea Hag, 2 and a blue instant adventure. Up to 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 until end of turn, and they can't be blocked. So it's just a good way to get Gorion in for damage, commander damage on your opponents. When Sea Hag enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -4/-0 until end of turn. So just a pretty good way to neuter some of your opponent's creatures and then get yours in for damage. Fairy Guide Mother, just another one of those boost spells, I should say, that gives your creatures +2/+1 in flying. So target creature gets +2/+1 in flying until end of turn. It itself is a 1/1 flyer, so just a good blocker. Tlinkali, I can't say that at all. Tlinkali Hunter. This one is a pretty cool one that just came out in Battle for Baldur's Gate. Graveyard recursion, basically. Exile target creature card from your graveyard until the end of your next turn. You may cast that card. So, Lucky Clover, Gorion, you exile 3 cards from your graveyard and you can play them until next turn. And then the creature form is the most powerful part of this card. Probably one that you don't want to flicker back to your hand, although you can if you need to. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a creature spell you cast from exile. Fantastic value in this deck, because some of these Toonveil, Treefolk, Young Blue Dragon, Beanstalk Giant, they're all pretty high value creatures, high mana value creatures. This one's 6, 7, 6, 5. So paying 0 is a lot better than paying some of those mana costs to get those creatures, and then you can bounce them back for good value. And it's once each turn, so not just your turn, but on your opponent's turns. So get your Leyline of Anticipation out. Just throw out a Beanstalk Giant casually for free. Insane value in this deck. Guardian Naga, another one. 7 mana. Come on. But it does have a pretty good value. Pretty good ability. So 2 white, or 2 generic and a white instant. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Exile 3 artifacts or enchantments with Gorion and Lucky Clover. Pretty good value there. And then as long as it's your turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Guardian Naga. Swinging in for a 5/6. Definitely good to have the Twin Cali Hunter out when you're going to cast that, though. Giant Killer is a really good one. One I would love to get the showcase for. Chop Down is its adventure. Instant speed. 2 generic, 1 white. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. So, just pretty good value there. The creature itself is decent. I'm not in love with it, but you can pay 1 and a white to tap it and tap target creature down. It's a 1/2. It's nothing huge, but you definitely want to cast it for its adventure. Realm Cloaked Giant. Destroy all non-giant creatures. Which, we have a couple in here. We have the, what's it called? The Ramping Giant. I just said his name a minute ago. But for 5 mana, board wipe, pretty good. When you cast him as a creature, he's a 7/7 with Vigilance. So, definitely a cool creature there. If your board gets wiped and, you need to clap back and get revenge, then you can just destroy all non-giant creatures. Unless you're playing against Giant Tribal, which is a thing. This is a pretty good card. Shepherd of the Flock. Kind of getting into the ways to bounce your creatures back to your hands in adventure form. You can pay 1 white to return target permanent you control to its owner's hands. Pretty good effect to copy 2 or 3 times, Sword Coast Serpent. Return target creature to its owner's hands. So 1 and a blue. And then it can't be blocked as long as you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. It's a 6/6. Pretty cool. Dread Linnorm is pretty cool as well. He just gives you protection on one of your creatures, or 2 or 3 of your creatures. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature and untap it. It gains hexproof until end of turn. It's a good way to, protect your commander from a Swords to Plowshare or something like that. Blessed Hippogriff, target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So if you want to cast your Realm Cloaked Giant to destroy all non-giant creatures and then protect a few of your non-giants with Blessed Hippogriff there, that's pretty good synergy. Emerald Dragon. Honestly, I don't ever want to hold up the mana for this, but it is a good card. Counter target activated or triggered ability from a non-creature source. So say you're playing against a combo deck that's about to pop off with like a Dramatic Reversal, Isochron Scepter, just counter that ability and stop them from winning the game for a turn at least. Pretty cool. Hypnotic Sprite. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 3 or less. Just a 2/2 flyer. 2/1 flyer as a creature. Really like that artwork though. Counterspell's nice on it. Sapphire Dragon, counter target non-creature spell. When it attacks or blocks, scry 2. It's a 5/6 flyer for 7 mana. Then we're getting down to some of the tapping and untapping effects to help our commander and creatures get in to deal damage. Ardenvale Tactician, tap up to 2 target creatures, instant speed. It's a 2/3 creature with flying. Queen of the Ice, tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its next untap step. Whenever it deals damage to a creature, tap that creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So, just a pretty good way to get in. This one I've had a lot of fun with. It's mean. So for X and 2 blue, you can tap X target creatures. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. And then for 4 and a blue, when a Lithid Harvester, sorry, I didn't name the card, it's a Lithid Harvester. When a Lithid Harvester enters the battlefield, turn any number of target non-token tapped creatures face down. They're 2/2 horror creatures. I love this card. I've had so much fun with it, tapping your opponent's commanders, and then casting that to flip them over. It's mean. It's definitely mean. I wouldn't say it's something that your opponents will enjoy you doing, but it's funny. I've had a lot of fun with it. Now we're getting down to the interaction cards. Have to run Swords to Plowshare. Have to run Path to Exile. Just pretty good ways to get rid of things for good. An offer you can't refuse. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. I love this card so much. I picked up like 4 or 5 copies of it. Kind of specking on it, kind of not. But it's just a really good counter spell for 1 blue. Dovin's Veto. Got 2 non-counterable. Well, this one's counterable. This one's not. I'll get into it. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. So, someone's going to go counter your thing, hit them with a Dovin's Veto, and boom. They can't counter it. Render Silent. It's kind of like Silence meets a counter spell. Counter target spell. Its controller can't cast spells this turn. It's a pretty mean one to hit somebody with, but I like it. Time Wipe. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. It's, bounce, destroy all creatures. It's a bouncing board wipe. And then I really like the artwork on this card. I think Lorwyn, just all of the cards from around that set. Beautiful artwork. Familiar's Ruse. It's 2 blue. As an additional cost to cast this, to play Familiar's Ruse, return a creature you control to its owner's hands. Counter target spell. For this deck, it's just a strictly better version of counter spell. Early game, it's not so great. Turn 1 or 2, someone's gonna, do something humongous to win the game super early. You can't really do anything unless you have, Gorion out. But do you really want to bounce Gorion in your hand? I suppose if you're about to lose the game, it's an option. But really, you want to save this and hold this up for if someone's going to do something while you have a adventure creature on the battlefield that you want to bounce to your hand. Lands, we've got Rogue's Passage, Reliquary Tower. Pretty good mix of non-basics here. Spar's Headquarters. Got a few of the bounce lands. And then I think it's like 5 plains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forests, and then I want to say that's like 11 islands. This has been a really fun deck, and I was super excited to share this deck tech with you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, if there's anything that you'd like to add to this deck, that you would upgrade or change about it. I don't see a lot of people on Spell Table playing this deck. I think I'm honestly the first person I've seen playing it on there. I've had a lot of fun with it. Higher power level lobbies, it does okay. I don't really plan on winning the game, but I survive long enough to be able to go on at least a few adventures. This is one of those decks that even if I don't win, you can't be salty about it because it's kind of a lower powered deck, but it does a lot. And as long as you can go on a few adventures, kind of chalk that up as a win. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my other stuff on my channel. Thanks so much for checking it out. Have a good day.